Welcome to BeyondBIM. Our construction field has been introduced to an increasing number of digital platform solutions. In today's episode, we speak to Andres Kuuse, the founder of a Fizure platform, which specifically has been designed to support job costing for real estate developers and general contractors. This is not, however, Andres' first venture. He previously co-founded the company called DeltaBid, now called SkySelect, which was a marketplace for large aviation companies to source planes and repair parts. In today's episode, Andres introduces us to Fizure and gives us a glimpse into the transition into the AEC domain and the experiences of a startup life. Fizure is a project and budget management tool for general contractors, real estate developers, and engineering companies, and provides real-time overview of project costs, forecasts, and commitments for management. This, I'm sure, as many of other emerging and budding platforms out there, is one to watch out for. And now, let's take a listen to what Andres has to say about Fizure. So you mentioned that you have a background in mathematics.
Yeah.
So you're not originally from within our sector. You're approaching this from a perspective of mathematics. That's been your foundation. How did you then, so you then progressed into IT, and how did you wind up in applying this in the construction field?
At the university, we learned a lot about software as well. And when working in Marcel, I saw that the projects and tenders, etc., they were really expensive. The numbers were really high, and there was really, that the outcomes were often not really what were expected, and the companies were spending a lot extra than they actually initially planned. So that's when I was actually starting to interview the project managers and ask them, why is that? Why are these tenders exceeding the budget? Why are we actually exceeding the budgets for large-scale projects? I actually learned that the larger the project, the more likely it is to exceed the budget, and the likelihood of exceeding is even greater. So that's when I actually thought, I'm going to actually put more effort into learning how the budgets are managed, what's going on in the construction.
And is that what led you to the creation of Fizure? Can you explain what Fizure is? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly as well. Can you just give an outline of what it is that you do at Fizure?
So how we actually started Fizure, basically, I discussed 4 close friends of mine and asked, what kind of tools you are using? And they were working in different main contracting companies. And they all say that we are in spreadsheets, takes a lot of time and effort. Then I discussed actually 20 largest main contractors in Estonia and few others in Nordics. Everybody was using spreadsheets, and it took them a lot of time and effort to manage these Excel databases, basically. This led us to the idea that there's a need for a simple, easy-to-use tool that more or less automates the processes. And that's where the idea for Fizure was born. So what is Fizure? Fizure is a cloud-based budget management software for real estate developers, general contractors, and engineering companies. Fizure helps track project costs and forecasts in real time and helps save project managers valuable time by having the subcontractors who submit quotes and progress reports do the data entry.
Is it essentially cloud-based budget management, but specific to the construction sector?
It's. I think there's one word missing here. It's a cloud-based budget management software. But in short, cloud-based tools are available in all computers, tablets, and mobiles that have internet connectivity. Actually, a number of construction companies still rely on on-premise software tools. Such tools need local IT support, paying for software updates, are locally hosted, etc. Fizure is different here. as it's hosted on Google Business Cloud with encrypted backups stored on 3 continents, where we as the product owners can use a number of security and scalability tools that Google has built. So we don't need to build everything from scratch. For Fizure users, this means that there is no need to deal with messy software.
So is it web-based in essence, or is it like a software?
Yeah, it is a web-based software. So there's no local servers, no desktop apps, etc. You just log in the system. You can use your mobile, laptops, etc. to do your work.
And from what you explained to me so far, it seems like Fizure kind of evolved out of a frustration that you had witnessed in the industry, right?
Absolutely.
So how would you say that budget management has evolved in construction since then, from when you were working with spreadsheets until now when you've developed Fizure?
Most of the budget management processes were carried out via paper, email, Excel, or spreadsheets. So I'm going to just discuss one small part of this process, where just the invoices approval processes required the accountants to print the invoices, put them literally on the project manager's table, where the project manager had to handwrite the cost codes and sign the document. Then the approved documents get manually entered in the accounting system. So when building an apartment building, one could easily process thousands or more invoices like this per project, which is actually quite a messy process. So as a next step, we see organizations developing their own budget management tools to bring more efficiency into the processes. But such tools get quickly outdated, complex, and don't often do the main task well. And now we see more and more companies opening up for more user-friendly, more affordable, and ready-to-use software tools as Fizure is.
So does that mean that whoever is using Fizure, they have some degree of customization? They can modify how this tool is being used?
They don't need much customization. The software has all the settings, etc. So one can easily sign up or watch the introductory videos and can start using the tool at once. But for larger organizations, we do some customizations if needed.
And what are some of the most common challenges that you've witnessed in your career with construction budgeting?
So first, it takes up to 10 days a month for a project manager who builds apartment buildings or office buildings to just track the budgets on spreadsheets. This involves also the monthly progress reports collecting, proving the invoices, collecting the bids, etc. So it's about 50% of project managers' total work time. And we help actually save 5 days here. I think the second one is that 30% of projects exceed the budget. The profitability becomes clear once the final invoice is approved. So there's clearly more oversight needed for the management. So number 3, there's no standardized processes, as each project manager manages the budget on different spreadsheets and everybody is managing them differently. Number 4, it's easy to make mistakes on Excel. And for example, I just yesterday spoke to Marco, who's a project manager at ABB, and he said that a simple mistake in Excel can be very, very expensive in the industry that they are in.
Sorry, is that something you witness a lot then with the traditional method? Is a lot of human error?
Absolutely. So we are now progressing, as I said, thousands of invoices, tens or hundreds of contracts, progress reports, etc. on spreadsheets. It takes a lot of data entry and updating. And if one just forgets to save something, it's really, really hard to backtrack what we actually did previously. And number 5, I just discussed Erkki Soeka from Taltech University, who has been asking the main contractors to comment on the students' skills. Then he has learned that the students have no idea on how to manage project costs. This is where Erkki sees that Fizure helps the students to learn how to correctly manage the budget. And we are now planning to have a course on budget management with Erkki at Taltech University next spring.
That's interesting. So you're finding that even those that graduate are not really being properly or adequately taught how to manage these budgets.
Yeah, it's not a straightforward and easy process, and we actually think that a number of project managers even don't know how to do it correctly.
Then if we go back to Fizure, do you believe that technology is the solution, or will it take more than just the tools themselves?
Actually, just for budget management, I think the software is the solution. It's one standardized process, so things are done pretty much the same way. It just takes a lot of time for the project managers to repeatedly do the same moves. Download files, create folders, open spreadsheets, update, save, close, etc., etc. Now software helps automate all that, and it frees up quite a bit of time, which can now be spent on more meaningful areas.
And then I guess that takes me to the next question. So if you could just summarize then, what are the biggest challenges of embracing the new ways of cost and project management?
Well, the tools are clearly there. I think the software selection process is outdated in the construction industry. The tools are selected by IT folks who are not the end users. In marketing and sales industries, for example, testing a new software that usually takes up to 15 minutes. But in construction, the processes take often 6 months' time. There really is no need for spending 6 months. As for most tools, you can just sign up and test them in no time.
So you would say that one of the challenges is actually piloting and quickly testing out the new solutions, that we've got to speed this up.
Yeah, we should actually have the end users. We should go to the end users and ask, like, why don't we have these processes working out for us? And we should ask them to go and find the suitable tools. If there's people selecting the tools who don't actually know how to use them, or actually aren't really familiar with the processes, then this is where it takes a lot of time. And at the end of the day, there's often the case where the software gets selected that's not ideal for the end users, let's put it this way, that are complex, require extra reporting, etc.
So the right people should really be testing.
Yeah,
right
they should just go and test the tools and not be sitting in these lengthy sales meetings, etc. Just go out and and test out these tools.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so going back then, if we take a look at your response where you mentioned that a lot of these tasks are repetitive, they're menial tasks, is the future then full autonomy when it comes to digital budget and cost planning?
May I just ask, what do you actually mean by the autonomy?
So, I mean, are we trying to fully automate these processes whereby we're relying on the machine to do these tasks, and we're kind of moving towards, many people are talking about under the umbrella of AI, but it could just also be full automation, right? Is this something that you see as the future trajectory?
I think it's full automation. Carrying out these processes don't really add much value. The approvals, they need to be as fast and as straightforward as possible. There's other areas in project management that need much more attention and time than the project managers have today. So we can actually free up quite a bit of time for them by automating these processes.
And those practices that want to go down the route of actually automating their budget management, how could they begin their journey into the digital cost transparency that you talk about?
That's definitely a good question again. And I think the first step is to ask, are we happy with our current cost management processes? If not, then what exactly needs to be improved? Then you should write down what exactly needs to be improved. As the software world and salesmen can make selecting the fit solution a challenge, then just go and test out these tools with end users. When finally having tested the tools, then just make sure that they actually solve the main problem that you had.
So if we look at those that are frustrated maybe with the way that budgeting is currently done, and they want to change the way things are done in construction when it comes to cost planning, what would you give as advice for those people who are aspiring to innovate and change these processes? And how would you advise them in making a change within our field?
First of all, I think that the construction industry is rapidly transforming. and there's plenty of opportunity for all the aspiring innovators. My advice would be actually to go either these hackathons or to go either even work in construction companies and really be able to determine where are these areas that need to be improved, where are these inefficiencies, what kind of opportunities does new software or innovation actually open. There's AI definitely, there's new materials, there's robotics, there's so much going on, and everything can actually be applied also to construction industry.
Is that something that you witnessed then? Because you obviously you had some dealings with construction and you understood how budgeting was done. Does that help when you're trying to build a technology solution coming from the industry itself? And is that something that you're seeing happen more often now?
I definitely see a lot of innovators who actually are thinking about starting companies and starting startups, etc. One piece of advice what I would give is you can actually test out your business idea way before you start building software tool. So, for example, when it comes to Fizure, we had our first customer and contract signed way before we wrote any single line of code. So we were able to go through the software selection processes of different organizations. We were able to have sits with these project manager. With the project manager, we were able to ask them like, how would you like to have this done? Where do you put a lot of time? What would you want to automate? Then we learn what actually the managers wanted to get done. And then we were able to collect all this information and feedback and put it into our first product version. So we were pretty much sure before we started with Fizure that we knew exactly what we needed to do, what needed to be done, and what are the biggest challenges that these organizations are facing in terms of budget management.
Actually, you touched upon a really important topic there, because I'm certainly noticing that there's an appetite for startups in construction technology. But many of them could just be stuck whereby they're building a solution, but not really having had the chance to test it and pilot it. And that seems to be like quite a common theme amongst many of the startups as well, that they are building and building, but not really listening to what the problems are.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why quite a bit of startups fail. There's young entrepreneurs who don't really know. There's quite a learning curve to become an entrepreneur. But there's just one small piece of advice that I would actually recommend is there's a book from Google project managers who wrote about methodology, how to validate a product idea in 5 days. So I know that this framework or methodology was used to build Google Meets and quite a number of other Google tools. So you could actually in 5 days validate the product idea before you actually build any product. That's definitely something that might help these young innovators to save quite a bit of time and actually focus on what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting actually when you look at how IT projects are managed versus construction projects. And in some sense, obviously IT projects themselves, project management is quite early, right? It's not as advanced as construction. But in other matters, I think IT project management is slightly different, and it's got things that we can learn in construction as well. Things like the ability to quickly maneuver and change your thinking and testing of ideas, right? And some of that is now being taken from the IT project management and cascaded into not just construction, but other sectors as well. They're talking about things like being agile as a business. Mm-hmm. Is that something you're noticing with construction companies or your clients as well?
So first of all, I think this framework is not just that Google isn't using it to validate software ideas, and actually the book is really valuable for any, let's say, manufacturing or also a construction company where just building this either demo sites or whatever they are building, or let's just a simple product that just this product development might cost, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions. You can just skip all the product development process and actually on the paper pretty much prepare the presentation and go and sell it to the end customers. In that sense, I think some of these ideas could also be used in the construction industry. In terms of more agile, I'm not sure.
It's okay. I mean, that's just something I've come across. But yeah, that's interesting. I will definitely need to look up into this book that you've just mentioned. So if we were going to find out more about Fizure, where could our listeners find out more about what Fizure does?
Yeah, so if anybody's stuck with spreadsheets or knows someone who could use better tools, then you can go to fizure.com and just sign up to test the tool. And for schools and universities, we give free access to use Fizure to teach the budget management. So to request for more information, please just send us the request via the chat on our website.
Thank you for tuning in to listen to BeyondBIM Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more from our latest episodes, then you can visit BeyondBIM, which is available on SoundCloud and iTunes and all the other major podcast providers.